Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all of you from wherever you are joining from all over the world. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of OAU Med Talks. This is the February edition. It's a landmark edition for this season. We appreciate your time, and we have our speaker also here, and we're expecting other people to join us. For those who may not know, OU Med Talks is a series of discussions with mentors, people who have gone ahead, professionals, doctors like myself, who are in the field. And we are reaching out to younger generations to tell them of our stories, of our experiences, of what we have been able to achieve and how, so that they can look over our shoulders and step on to the future. We have been able to give other people opportunities, extend open doors as we've been able to. And this is courtesy of OAU 2005 alumni of Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. So as we start today, like I said, this session is recorded, and therefore we would have other people who are still going to watch later on come on to this Zoom. And it's going to be posted live on all the social media platforms of OAU Med 05. And that's Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. So you'll be able to go back and watch this if you haven't. And so, I would start by saying that the journey of life is in phases, as we all know. And for every one of mine, I have stories that are untold. Quite a few of them are still yet unfolding. But as a common ground to a lot of us, OAU gave us opportunities to explore, to groom our potentials as undergraduates. And I met special people along the way. Some of them you might have met in this series that we've been broadcasting for over a year now. Some you're yet to meet, and I hope that you stay tuned so that you can meet them and hear from them as well. While we were there in OAU, we were not just finding Nemo, we were finding ourselves. For me, I was finding me, and I was glad for the opportunities I had to learn, to grow, to discover myself. And it has been a pleasant journey, out of which I've had to make choices of career, of specializations, of a spouse, of investments, of relocation within the country and beyond borders. And in it, I've learned to pivot, to adapt, to change. Quoting the great philosopher, Socrates, the secret of change is to focus all your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So moving forward each day, taking steps to make them giant strides. I speak like the great writer, C.S. Lewis, telling you that you really can't go back to change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. It is my honor today to present to many, introduce to a few, a renowned colleague, Dr. Akiola Ogundiya. Permit me to read his biography and give it a few minutes. Dr. A.A. Ogundiya, MB, CHB, PG Cert Glasgow, MRC PH, is currently a consultant pediatrician and clinical lead for neonatal unit St. Mary's Hospital, Isle of Wight. He's also an honorary consultant neonatologist, University Hospitals, Southampton, Princess Anne Hospital, Southampton, UK. Currently, he is also the lead for pediatric diabetes, St. Mary's Hospital, Isle of Wight. He is a proud graduate of Obafemi Awolowo University Medical School, Ile-Ife, and after house job at the Wesley Guild, Elisha, he proceeded to complete his NYSC service in Lagos State in 2008. He initially started pediatric residency at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Idiaraba. After a year at Massey Street Children's Hospital, Lagos State, he bagged a postgraduate certificate in child health from the University of Glasgow in 2016, completed residency training with the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health in 2018 in Liverpool, UK. This is after previous training in East of Scotland for 3 years. He's the author of several publications and 2 educational modules for the European Society for Pediatric Endocrinology, ESPE. He has headed the neonatal unit for the last 5 years. And in addition to the main hospital jobs leading unit and the pediatric diabetes service, he has other responsibilities. I'll read just a few. He is a question setting group member, RCPCH examination committee. He's a member of the National Executive Committee, Association of Children's Diabetes Clinicians, ACDC United Kingdom. He is a honorary consultant neonatologist at Southampton Princess Anne Hospital. He is a level 3 representative, Thames Valley and Wessex Congenital Cardiac Group. He is a principal investigator for 2 trials, both for Aztec and Sofran. He's an instructor, neonatal life support courses for the Resuscitation Council UK, provider, advanced resuscitation of the newborn infant, member and contributor to several hospital committees, blood transfusion guideline development, and hospital governance group. During his free time, he spends his time with his family, writes poetry, and has an intense interest in the arts. He also, incidentally, is an avid gardener and a very amateur photographer. He is husband to 1, father to 2, brother and friend of many. Please, today, join me to give a warm welcome to Dr. A. Ogundiya as he speaks today on challenging you. Prepare, be excellent, stay relevant. Thank you.
Oh my God. Hiya, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sure I've met a couple of you guys before. Some of the names on here are quite familiar. At least I know Peter very well. And also, I think Faith is a regular with us here. John Jokotola, the name rings a bell. I've got 2 friends, at least Kemi and Bumi, who are both Jokotolas, probably a relative or not relative, I'm not sure. So today, thanks for that introduction. It sounds a lot more, how do I put it, a lot bigger than what I perceive myself to be most of the time. My name is Alaba. That's actually my middle name. Most people do not know. First name is Akinshola, which is on all my documents. Alaba is one of those names that's hidden somewhere in there that, although most people call me, doesn't appear on many of my official documents. Okay. So Taya has asked me to talk about this. It's quite an interesting topic she's picked, which got 3 huge chunks that if we decided to start talking about it in so much detail, we'll be here for the rest of the day trying to pull this out. But I did pull some slides together. So I'll try and see if I can share my slides now. So at least we can all go along as we do this. Am I allowed to share, Taya? Okay.
Yes, you are. Please go ahead. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so prepare, be excellent, stay relevant. I know this is primarily targeted at people in final year or penultimate year. So if it's pitched at that level, some of my colleagues who've joined us today will just permit me to carry on at this level for now. So when I looked at this topic, the first thing that struck me was, what on earth am I going to say? How do I prepare people when I didn't feel prepared at that time? But realizing that this is more of a recollection, a look back to let you guys know how we kind of navigated this whole journey. And I put up this picture, and the first thing that struck me was, what did I feel looking at this picture? Now, for many of you who are still in the system, some of you will feel palpitations just seeing this picture. Some of you feel elation, like, yeah, this is my proud college. This is this great factory of brilliant minds who are now spread all over the country. So this is where it all began. And for me, this journey began in 1995. Now, some of you might gasp at that, considering this class finished at 2005, but a lot of events happened that gave us a whole decade studying first degree in medical school. Now, while that should be a bit down, that should be something that weighs most of us down. In reality, I think for some reason, either by fortune or fate, it's worked a lot more in our favor than we ever envisaged. So going on to that first part she talked about, which is preparation, I kind of broke it down into 4 different things that prepares you for this sort of journey. Because whatever it takes, we are all on the journey. I don't think there's any human who has what we call a destination. Even if you think it is, it's only very transient. It's only short term. And you realize that where you are is just a stepping stone to going on to the next step of the journey. So I'll give you an example of what my current day job entails. I lead a team of 8 consultants in my main clinical job. And they're from different parts of the world. As you know, in the UK, we've got Indians, we've got people from Eastern Europe, different countries in Eastern Europe, we've got British people, and then there's me, who is the only African on that team, being asked to lead the team. I've got 9 what we'll call senior registrars in Nigeria, who are called registrars in the UK. I have 8 SHOs and loads of nurses, and many other people from the allied health professions that I have to work in day in, day out. Physios, dietitians, specialist nurses, midwives, social workers, a whole lot of people have to be worked with in this period, occupational therapists, and even the administrators. We call them word clerks. And this can be quite challenging, as you'd realize that agendas are often different wherever you have different human beings. While you think the general thrust of your thinking should be the same, your aims should be the same in a team. However, the agendas can be quite varied, and that introduces a level of challenge into the picture. Now, could anything have prepared me for these roles and these challenges that I encounter in every single day at work? I'll say yes. And I think the biggest prep itself was walking through Great Ife. I saw it as a great crucible where you are molded, you are formed, you are sometimes molten down into the liquid form and reconstituted in a better form so you can actually function. And every single day is an unconscious preparation. I spent a decade in Ife, which, as a joke, when I was trying to move to the UK, I remember when the GMC first looks at your papers, the only question they tend to ask most of us then was, wait, how many degrees did you say you got in 10 years? And it's just 1 degree. And then we had to start explaining, oh, there were many strikes, there were closures, some of us repeated a year and things like that. And that's why it took that long. Not like it works against you, but it molded your character towards that point. And when it comes to time, look, time is money. There's just no way you can waste time. You cannot afford to waste time. And I know most of you guys are probably in final year now, getting ready for your final exams. Time itself is so precious that you have to make every second count. Even if it looks like leisure, it must be deliberate leisure. It's not leisure because I'm supposed to be reading, but I don't feel like reading. It must be, okay, I've planned to have my holiday or my free day on Saturday. I'm taking that time for leisure. So try not to waste it, and don't think it's all about medical textbooks. Those are important things, but generally, it's not everything. You spend time with people, you invest in yourself or anything that may improve your mind and your outlook, and try to be open-minded. Now, if it was the perfect balance of everything, whatever you wanted to get into was available in Ife, and I bet it still is, probably even better right now. Being open-minded just means you might have some set ideals that you think this is what guides everything I do. But don't be surprised that opportunities will come your way. Each contact, each meeting is something that should make you better. If you're rolling with people who don't seem to be making you better or challenging you into better things, then you're probably wasting time in that situation. When it comes to lectures, every lecture is important, but it didn't take too long for us in medical school to realize that some lectures were more important than others. Not because you had a penalty for not attending those ones, no, but because the kind of way you are taught, the things that got across to you are things that stay with you and help you navigating the medical school. Those are essential lectures. Now, there are lectures that you may not like, but they're extremely important and you have to go for. So please do go for them. But then there are others that you have to just balance it out. What am I going to gain here if I go for this? What would I not gain or what would I lose by not going for it? And is there any penalty for not showing up for this lecture? And if all those things align in the favor of not going, then think of what better can I be doing with that time? Even if it's sleep, if you've got sleep deficits, catch up with it at those periods so that whatever you're doing in life, time is so precious that it shouldn't be wasted. Fun should be deliberate. Leisure time should be deliberate. All I'm saying is make sure it's planned. Make sure it's not just doing so because you have nothing better to do with that time. Even if it's reading a book, even if it's reading history, whatever it is, make sure you're living deliberately with the time. Now, this one is a very tricky one. Now, this is something we all as human beings hate to go through. We hate to see. We hate to even discuss. And some of us would rather even bury our heads in the sand to talk about adversity. But I'll give you a nice story. So I got into IFE in 1995. Of course, like everybody, you guys know who came into IFE into medicine, you were all local champions in whatever secondary school you came from. I grew up in Ibutimeta at first, then moved to the suburbs of Lagos. School was an easy peasy ride, you clear distinctions, then you get to the med school. And the first year was so good that for me, I felt there's nothing better than this year. Is this the medical school they talk about? Physics 101, chemistry 101, whatever it is it's called now, then physics 105, then 106, then chemistry 101, then chemistry 102. Now, all those things were so good. And to be honest, I found them quite easy. When I say quite easy to the point of getting distinctions in them. But then something happened in the second semester of my first year. Not to talk of the fact that between the first year and the second year, there was a long, like 7-9 month strike for Tony Fash. Those who may have read about IFE would have heard that name before, the Tony Fash issues. So we're supposed to write physics 106 exam. And there was this lovely evening. It was the days before mobile phones where somebody rang the Hall of Residence, I think it was in Faj, and said, oh, your dad wants you back in Lagos. And that was, for me, an extremely unusual thing. So, of course, I jumped on the next available bus to Lagos thinking, oh, they said it wasn't urgent. But I knew for him to have called, it must be urgent. So ran down to Lagos. And of course, the news when I got to Lagos was, oh, sorry, your mom passed on last night. It was sudden, it was unexpected, blah, 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 blah. Now, that is something that could break you. And the burial was then fixed for the date we had the exact physics 106 exam. I think it was, no, the in-course physics 106 or something like that. So of course I couldn't sit the exam, came back to school, still did physics 106, still managed to get a B despite missing 120 mark test in those days. And then you feel that's all. Then of course there was another strike at the end of that, only to come back to resume part 2 the following year. When you've looked at all your results and you're sure you're moving into part 2, and suddenly you look at all the list of the names on the wall. In fact, you came back with all the books, Last Anatomy, Grant's Atlas, blah, 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 to be told, oh, sorry, you're not in part 2, you're supposed to repeat part 1 with a CGPA of 4.9. Now, that might look ridiculous to you guys, but that was the situation. So running down to the reg office and everything, and being told, oh, I see what happened. You failed Zoo 103. Now, just to get a feedback from you guys, is that still a course you do right now, Zoology 103? You can unmute yourself and just let me know. I can see a couple of guys there. Is this something they still do? Does anybody have any idea what Zoo 103 entails?
Yes, they still do it in 100 level.
100 level, okay. So Zoo 103 was essentially 4 sessions where we had to chase some naughty frogs around and, you know, dissects the frogs and blah, blah, blah. So apparently that's what I failed. Now, I'd done it before. Of course, I passed 1 or 3, but then everything was on paper and they had misplaced the paper. And by the time I realized the exams had gone to Senate, the results had gone to Senate, and they said you scored 39 because you did 3 out of 4 sessions, of which I attended all the 4. And you know what started like a joke became a full-blown nightmare. Here's somebody who had just lost a mom, who is trying to recover, trying to make sense of life without a mother as a 19-year-old child. And then suddenly you find out you have to repeat a whole year in medicine despite CGPA of 4.9. Now that was a breaking point for me. It was such a breaking point because the only people I had as friends then were the same people we got into IFE at the same time. Benga, Taegiwa, Tunji, you know, they were guys that I could relate to. They were the only friends I knew. And suddenly I'm going to be cut off from them. Now that was a breaking point where I had 2 options. Bolt and leave IFE and go, this is not working for me. Since I have to repeat a whole year, what am I going to be doing for the whole year anyway? I've passed every other course except a 1-unit course. And then it was a 1-unit course then. Thanks, Miwa. Regardless of the 1-unit course, the way medicine works is you don't pass everything, you don't move on to part 2, end of. So I ended up having a whole year of doing SCG, SEO, SEL, SC. God knows, I did practically every SC that existed in the fair at that time, just so I don't get kicked out of school for not doing enough units for a whole year. Now that year was also a reflection year for me. It was a year that I had to sit down and decide what I wanted to be. Am I going to spend the rest of my life mourning the loss of the same year I got into IFE with and failing, which for somebody who has never failed an exam in life, that was a breaking point. It broke me to pieces. But then when it put me back together, I realized one thing, that was not the end of my life. 1, 2, that adversity was only temporary. At least at that time, that's what I thought. It was very temporary. 3, I now have an opportunity to make sure I never make the same mistake again. Of course, I blamed IFE. Of course, I blamed the system. Of course, I blamed everybody else. But the only thing that helped me the most was blaming myself. And that was 1. It was like letting the door open for the robber to come in. I did not keep those papers. I did not keep good documents. So I had no evidence. Even when they said, oh, if you're saying you did it, go and bring the papers, let's see. I had nothing to show. Because in my mind, it was done and dusted, discarded, they should do their work. And that just taught me a big lesson, which I never let go of. And I still use up till now. Whatever it is, keep your documentation spick and span, whatever you do. Don't lose anything. Nothing goes to waste. Until you die, you need everything. It makes you more of a hoarder, but at the same time, it makes you a careful person, such that if somebody says tomorrow, where's the evidence that I did CHM worth something in part 4, I will bring it out for you. I have most of my notes, the ones I wrote, not the ones I photocopied from Tinuke, the ones I wrote. I keep all of those things. So the adversity part of it is, and I know some of you might be in this situation right now, where you've probably repeated a year, you should never let it define you. Or maybe you've just failed an in-course that you've never failed before. Or maybe this rotation didn't go very well. Maybe you think the exams are approaching and my surgery is not in place. It is adversity, it is molding you. And as much as it's the most undesirable thing, it's the most painful thing, it leaves a mark on you. That means there's a lesson that you would never repeat again. There's a popular saying that if you lose, don't lose the lesson. I lost big time. But from that loss, there were things I gained. 1, I gained a whole new family. I think my network is so much bigger now. Rather than being restricted to 1 class, I have a network spanning 2 classes. 2, and people like me might laugh at this, because of the repetition, I was able to meet somebody who ended up being my wife. And I've never regretted it. So sometimes things happen that look like adversity, but they mold you and they will build you. Now, that was in IFE. Finishing from IFE, of course, if you don't have the right connections, you struggle to get house job in those days. I heard the process is a lot better now. I spent 7 months at home trying to find a house job. But was I dispirited? No, because I look back all the time, I'm like, yeah, this is just a kink in bed. What can I do to make this time count? I was reading books, I attached myself to some private hospital where I was doing some supervised working. I had to do something because I realized, look, this is another rough patch that must be navigated. Rough patches, they call them bends for a reason. They are not the end. So, and that worked out. Then coming to the UK and starting membership exams, I did the first 2 exams at the same time. It was a bit silly. People said you just one, but loving a challenge, I did 2. Of course, I passed one and failed the other one. And I was sad again thinking, oh, how could I have failed an exam? But of course, I had to do that paper again, passed it, did another stage, failed before retaking and passing again. So it's more of a story of the guy who failed. At some point with adversity, you almost see yourself as that guy who failed. Don't stay there. The guy who failed yesterday is not the same guy today. And you don't always, failing something or having the adversity or having difficulties, whether it be academic or financial or personal relationships, or even the loss of a parent, can be big things, but they are not things that should make you stop or make you think any less of yourself, because that's just a situation. It's not the person. That is the situation. The person failed the exam, yes, but the situation is there was a failure. But this person doesn't have to be that person who failed all the time. So let's keep that in mind, that the adversity is part of the preparation. You guys are probably all very brainy and your in-courses are brilliant. And I'm sure my colleagues here will remember a particular pathology class where in-course, where only 13 people passed in the whole class. Then it was like a badge of honor for some lecturers that people failed their courses. But all the people who failed the courses then, ask me where they are right now and how well they're doing. They probably don't even remember that in-course anymore. So keep adversity as a friend. It's a teacher. It's not the executioner. Adversity is a teacher that teaches you one profound lesson or the other, but it keeps you going and you just have to keep going. You haven't got any other option. Maki says, don't remind us. I'm not sure I'm not reminding you of it. Okay, so next part of preparation is networking and community. Now, this is where a lot of us fall short. After that year of what I call my wilderness year, I learned one thing is that you cannot restrict yourself to just one small circle or group of friends. Of course, you have your own inner circle, but keep an open mind and realize that you need to know your community. You need to forge links with your community. That's your fellow students, either in your halls of residence, wherever you live, in your class and everything. And you'll be surprised that there's a lot more that connects you, that separates you. Every class will have its cliques and groups of friends. And understand that, look, not everyone will like you, and you don't like to like everyone. Frankly, you don't. But the fact is, they are not your enemy. So if you need to work with them, work with them. What's the big deal? You're a Christian, I'm a Muslim, so what? We just have to work together. We have a common goal. We all want to pass the exam, work together. And you may need to work with people that you don't even think you had anything in common with. It doesn't matter. Try and be social. Go to events with people. They want to organize something for the whole class. Don't just wave them off as, because all of these things build your character. And when it comes to actually living the life and doing the work, like most of us do now, you'd realize that you need to keep forging links and forging alliances and links and getting more people on board to achieve whatever goal you're setting for your team, wherever you find yourself in the future. Be it in Ife, be it in Lagos, Abuja, outside the country, you will need those links. And you'd have to work with people you'd even rather not talk to sometimes, depending on what goals you're trying to achieve. Now, the last part of preparation is a part I call service. Now, this might seem off course because service looks like you finish preparing and you're actually doing the work. No, service is the journey. And if you find out that wherever you are, there's a need around you, there is a requirement that somebody wants to achieve something but can't do it, and you're in a position to help, please step in and help out. You'll be surprised at how much you learn of yourself through serving others. And I remember this because FATCAF used to be our domain in those days for what we call discussion groups, which was very good. Some of us had very short attention span. By the way, I still have extremely short attention span. I can focus on something intensely for 15 minutes, and that's it. I'll have to get up, take a walk, come back and continue again. Although in that 15 minutes, I can cover what we say some people a few days. But if I sit down and start to do it for 6 straight hours or 10 hours, I'm not going to learn anything. I'll be wasting time, which is the most important resource we talked about at first. So serving others, then I started organizing these discussion groups that seem to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And sometimes people argue, people shout, people scream, people fall out with each other. But there was one thing I realized, and I told them, I said, look, you can't keep falling out with XYZ or this other person. They are not your enemies. Just realize one thing, you're just displeased in that situation. And the moment you understand that people are not your enemies, you find that you can get along with almost anyone. Just be human. Just imagine yourself in their shoes. In this world of today, people glorify selfishness. What can I get for myself? What can I do for myself? What is me? Me. If you realize that we're put in this world not just to serve yourself, not just to do what is easy, but to try and make life easier for other people, you realize you start to help people. Did I choose neonates at first when I came to the UK? No, heck no, I didn't. My first neonatal job in Liverpool was, I just got through it essentially. It was scary, it was hair-raising, but I had to do it. Then I started training in Scotland. Of course, the first rotation they gave me, God knows, was neonates in a complicated tertiary hospital called Wishaw University Hospitals in Glasgow. This hospital had a manic work rate. I mean, you worked yourself to the bone. It was scary. Am I going to make a mistake? Am I going to do something? But after that rotation, I learned a whole lot. I started to take interest. Then they rotated me to Dundee, where you did some more, and I did some more neonates. Now, to make life interesting, when I got back to Liverpool to continue my training, I was supposed to go to neurology. And the training program director rang me and said, mate, I was told you've done some neonates and you like it. I've got a bit of a problem. Can you help me with this problem? And I said, what's the problem, Chris? And Chris said, I've got this lady who was posted to neonates. She wants neurology, and she wants to do neurology, but she was posted to neonates. And she's hell-bent that she's going to die or get depressed if she does neonates. Everybody hates neonates. Nobody wants to go. Are you able to help me? Now, for me, I'd heard a lot about Liverpool Women's Hospital. Now, when you look at a hospital with 10,000 births a year, which has like 12 research projects going on at a time, and you're going there as a most senior trainee, in which case the expectations are this high that you can do echocardiograms, you can do head scans, you can do everything. I was terrified, but I thought of one thing. I said, look, to be honest, I'm not very keen on neurology. I've already done my fill of neonates. I only needed to do 6 months. I don't need to do 18 months of neonates. But the way he said it, I felt something like, okay, I'm going to be helping out this guy as it is by doing this. And I said, okay, you can tell her to ring me. We'll do a swap. So I went on to neonates at Liverpool Women's. And believe you me, that's the best experience I ever had in neonates. Much to the point that by the time I was finishing at Liverpool Women's, I was being offered, are you sure you don't want to come back and do a job for us or apply for retrospective grid and blah, 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 because I'd done 18 months of neonates? I didn't, because I felt, oh, I needed to move on. When I was going to get my first consulting job, they approached me and said, we've actually headhunted you. We need somebody who can help our neonatal unit. Is in trouble, it's this, it's that, everything has gone wrong for it. Are you able to come help us? Now, that for me taught me a lesson that, look, although I didn't choose to go along this line of neonates, I've had a torrid journey with it, but the journey has worked so well to prepare me and help me to the point where now all of those things I brought with me from those challenges are making it's making the work look a lot easier. The most difficult part of my day job now is not the babies, it's the man management. I'm managing people, their expectations, their internal conflicts, their politics that they keep bringing into the picture. Same thing with diabetes. Final year of training, after doing all of this neonatal job, I was supposed to do 1 year where I'm stepping up as a consultant. This is year 8 of training, by the way. And they put me with a supervisor who called me and said, oh, yeah, you're joining me, right? And I said, yeah. And she goes, you're going to be doing diabetes clinic. And I said, no, I do not do diabetes clinic. I'm doing neonates. And she says, no, you're doing diabetes clinics. I said, it was ding dong, ding dong. And I said, May, what's going on? She said, look, I sign off people nationally for diabetes training in pediatrics. They've given you to me as my trainee, meaning you have to do my clinics. And if that's the case, I can sign you off at the end that you have a qualification in pediatric diabetes. I said, alongside neonates and cardiology I've already done. She said, yes. And I said, I don't want to. She said, well, the choice is yours. You do the work anyway. If you do the work and you want a certificate, just let me know. If you don't want the certificate, it's fine. You can just do the work and go away. So I thought, why do the work when there's a free piece of paper to get at the end and I won't take it? So I took the job and I ran with it. And of course, after working here on neonates for a while, somebody leaves, the lead for the diabetes, and they asked me and said, can you please help us, the way they say it nicely, sort this problem with diabetes? We have nobody else. You're the most qualified, blah, 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 blah. And of course, I said, it's going to be a lot of work. It's very busy work, but let's see how it goes. I'll do it for a couple of weeks. That was 4 years ago. I'm still doing the same thing alongside my other job. So it is busy, but I've found things I've been able to do and achieve a lot more by just helping to serve. Now, if I just looked out for myself, I'd have said no to most of those things. But what I was saying no to were not those jobs itself. They'll be saying no to opportunities. Try and be open-minded. And service has definitely taught me a lot more than I would ever teach myself. Now, going on to the second thing about excellence, I thought about this for a while. I was like, what does Tayo expect me to say about excellence? Am I excellent? I certainly don't consider myself being excellent. I think I put in 100% into everything I do, but am I excellent? I'm not certain. But still, I realize excellence distills down into just a few things. Rebellion and standing out, being a bit of a rebel, being able to say, look, I'm not going to be run of the mill. I'm not going as part of the flow. I'm going to be standing out against the grain. And that's essentially what it is. Whenever it can be done or the risk taking, you stand out and you do it. When it comes to risk taking on some of these jobs I've taken on has been a bit of a risk of burnout, risk of not having enough energy, risk of not having enough time in the day to do all of these things. But taking it on makes you actually stand out to the point where last year, was it the year before, the hospital wrote and decided to give an award to this Nigerian doctor from Ife as the most inspirational doctor in the hospital, where I've been able to lead that team to brilliant results when it comes to national audits. Now, considering these were units that were in dire straits before I took over, and when I say dire straits, where one of them was at risk of even losing the accreditation altogether, the program was like going to go because they weren't maintaining the standards expected by the national bodies. But thankfully, we've been able to resuscitate practically everything. It is embracing the challenge. It is looking at a problem confronting you and say, is this doable? What do I need to do it? And I think the first step in doing that is realizing you have to develop the power of assessment. Let's say the problem is, can you leave from Nigeria straight to Canada to be a doctor? Let's say that's what you want to do. The question is, be an assessor. Sit down and say, what do I need? Where do I get this information? Who can give me this information? If they can't, where do I find the information? And I find that a lot of people, when they speak to you, they go, oh, can you tell me how to come to the UK? No, I think that would be the wrong approach. The best approach is, I've read this, read the GMC. There are 1 or 2 questions I have. There is nobody who asks that question who would not go the extra mile to meet you halfway to make sure you have the full information. Now, that works for either your service job, exams, everything. If you expect people to spoon feed you, there's no way you're going to stand out. You're just going to be like everybody else asking for information. And naysayers, oh my God, for every single thing you want to do, that you feel you want to achieve, that you want to do after med school, there will be somebody you would meet who would tell you, nah, it can't be done. Let me give an example. You say you want to be a dermatologist. Someone will say, oh, what a rubbish job. Who wants to be a dermatologist? You just want to be looking at the skin. But if that is your thing, that is your passion, there'll opinion is their opinion. It's not yours. It's their perception of what you've just told them. Don't let it stop you. And lastly, you have to learn to filter out criticisms, because from what I've realized all through my training to this point, there are only two types of criticism. There's one that comes from a place of, this person is good, but will get better if they do this. And there's some that come from, I don't like your guts. You're just rubbish. You should learn to filter out the lessons. So if someone comes to you and said, oh, you're just a rubbish doctor, you don't know this, you don't know that, you don't go for evening classes, you don't do this, you don't do that. Think about it. Where is this criticism coming from? Is this coming from criticizing my person? Or is this person interested in making me a better doctor? And that's just for finally, let's say you start your junior reg job. One consultant comes to you and say, you're just stupid, you're an idiot. I hope they don't do that anymore, by the way. But we saw lots of those happening to doctors when we were students, where junior registrars were lambasted and insulted constantly and ridiculed, in fact, in front of student nurses and doctors and everything. Excuse me. So when that comes at you, you look at it. Sometimes that's a reflection of that person and their own frustrations. Filter it out, block it out. Excuse me. Now, motive for relevance is why do you want to be relevant? Are you aiming for relevance because you want to be called this great, fantastic doctor nobody has ever heard about, so that you can walk with your head in the cloud? Or do you want to be relevant because you are actually solving problems for people and making life better? Because look, if you don't leave a mark, if people are not better off because they know you, then you have no relevance. Whatever alphabets come behind your name, whatever awards and accolades you think you've won. So relevance is in problem solving, is in making life better. There's a problem in class, trying to solve this problem. You are standing away, you're not relevant. If you want to be relevant, you are solving problems, you are making life better. And such that when you're not there, people know, oh gosh, we need this person to help us do this, or who can we go to solve this problem for us? That for me is the only description of relevance. So if I work somewhere and I'm always avoiding the problem, sidestepping the problem, because I think, look, I've got my own problem, mate. I've got money issues, I've got wife issues, I've got girlfriend problems. You're not being relevant by avoiding communal problems and other people's issues. Try. You're not Jesus Christ, you're not going to save the whole world, but at least you can contribute something. Also, it brings you right back to the same thing about service. Relevance and service go together. If you think the mechanic is irrelevant, wait until you have a car problem. Then you realize how very relevant the mechanic is. So if your department is there or your class is there, there's a huge problem from the class, whether it's accommodation or this, you don't have to be the president, you don't have to be something. Find out how you can help. And this would in turn carry out into your whole life going forward. You'll be relevant to your family, you'll be relevant to your children, you'll be relevant to your workplace or your profession or your specialty you choose eventually. Excuse me. Lastly, have some principles. Don't just go with the flow. People say, oh, this is how you do this. It's a cut corner. Have some boundaries. Although you want to be all things for all people, if they're stealing money and they say, look, we have to steal money together and it's not your thing, don't join them. Don't do it. When it comes to money, a lot of people think everything is about chasing money and chasing money and chasing money, and that's good. But money as it is follows the heart. What you put your heart in and you work hard at, money would follow you. And it sounds like a cliche, it's true. Even when you didn't think this thing would come with money, after you've done it, someone says, oh, surprise, I was supposed to pay you this one. You go, oh, really? All right. I'm not going to say no to that. Thank you very much. But even your job, your day job, the way you do it, the things people bring to you, more responsibilities, which oftentimes comes with more pay in general. So if money is your aim, you'll be so limited in what you do and what you can achieve. But if service and making things better, making life better, and giving back to the community around you is your aim, you'll be surprised at how much more you gain from things. I know money might be hard as students. Believe me, it is hard. We all went through this. Daily, all of us, people were raiding each other's beans pots back in those days in fact. But it's just a phase. If you live your life by your abiding principles, by your spirit of service, by you being relevant to your environment, to your community, to other people, and to everything around you, you would eventually get to the point of fulfillment. Now, contentment is a slightly different issue, but fulfillment is when you can look back and say, wow, I think I've done my best with this. And if you can say it with your hand on your chest that you've given your all for this, that is brilliant. That is fulfillment. That is being happy. That is seeing the fruits of your labor. You learn contentment because you then realize that there's no end to pursuits. There's no end to, I want to get this. I want to get that. I want to get this. Fine. But at each stage, learn to be content. Now, when the each comes to move to the next level, you will know. And if you have a combination of both fulfillment and contentment at the same time, it is everything. Someone asked me one day and said, after what Ife did to you, I mean, they took a decade of your life, they made you repeat when you didn't have to repeat. And I still see that air from my transcript today and I'm sad, but hey ho, it happened. Why on earth would you want to even be interested or to do anything with that school again? The fact is, the people who made the mistake then, they probably didn't know me from Adam. They were just incompetent. It was a mistake. They've done it, they're gone. They're not even there anymore. Why should I take that out on anybody else who is in Ife right now? It would not make any sense. That would be making an enemy of the wrong person. And like I said, if you understand people are not your enemy and that they're just who they are, with each person with their own frailties, it's easy to get along. It's easy to be peaceable with all men. This, I say, is everything. So at the end of the day, if you can look back at your life in 50 years' time, would you say you are fulfilled? What would you see to make you know you're fulfilled? I think at this stage for you guys, start to note that down now. Even as I am right, I'm looking like in the next 10 years, what are the things I want to say I've achieved that would make me feel happy when I look back at that time? But at the same time, enjoy the journey. Just see it as each day as it comes, but you're living deliberately. You're not living from one accident to the next. You're not wasting time. You're keeping things in focus as they should be. And you realize you're not there for yourself. God doesn't just put us on this earth for self alone. If that's the case, each person will have his own on this earth and would all live as individuals. God put us in a community for a reason. Your environment needs you. Ife needs you. Your community needs you. Your relatives need you. Your family needs you. Give yourself to those ideals. And when you look at it, Ife, I think there's nowhere else that prepares you as good as Ife. Despite all of those things we managed to do in Ife with academics, I remember being a part of a dance and drama group with IFUMSA then. I remember being in IFUMSA trying to set up CyberMed, our very first cyber cafe when computers first came to Ife and the internet first came in 1998. I remember doing all of those things, and all of those things were a preparation. Right now, I initiate programs in the department. Some people go, oh, there it comes again. And some go, okay, what do you need of us to do this time? How can we help you achieve this dream or this aim of yours? When I first did the first research project here, there hasn't been any research in the department for aeons. I mean, everything was falling apart. And I came and I said, I'm signing us up for a national trial. A couple of people looked and said, is he serious? And others said, look, this is never going to work. Nobody's going to go along with you. Nobody wants to do this. And I said something to them that, look, you're all down, you're all downcast, you're all beaten. Wouldn't you just try one new thing to see if it sparks some excitement? Just try it. If you don't like it, bin it, leave me alone. I will pull out of the research. And after doing that, they cut their teeth. The next one, pure interventional trial, everybody has jumped on board. I didn't even have to beg. So whatever happens, don't take yourself too serious. You're not Jesus Christ. You're not cake. Not everybody likes cake. Not everybody likes jollof rice. You're not going to satisfy everybody. live your life, enjoy the journey, and have fun along the way. Balance is hard. That is balancing the fun side and the serious side. But those of my classmates who know me know that I would joke with any situation. It irritates some people to no end. It annoys some to no end. But at the end of the day, they just all look at you and say idiots. But that's fine. It's people can say anything. It's your life. You are living for you, but as part of a community. And whatever you do, don't compare yourself ever. Don't say, oh, this guy's already gone farther ahead. And I know some of you are already doing part 1 exams from, or what they not part 1 primaries from year 5, year 6. Some people have already done foreign exams. Some are already happier. Don't compare yourself. When it's your time, when you're ready, do it. Because like it or not, there'll be people who are better than you. There are people who are smarter, richer, happier. And at the same time, there will be people you are there to help achieve those things. Because while you're helping them, you will also be helping yourself. It's a journey. It's not a destination. Your value and your worth is measured by the lives you touched, not by your titles, degrees, and everything. Those are fun things that mean nothing to anybody else. As far as I'm concerned, I could have degree MRCPCH, MPCHD, blah, 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 this. All of those things do not mean jack to anybody else. It's fancy, it's fine, but who cares? It's just for you, it's not for them. So try and touch other people's lives. And it might seem remote, it might seem far, it might seem almost even unbelievable or even incongruent with your current situations. But realize one thing, that you are there for a reason. And if you're going to be prepared, if you're going to be relevant, and if you're going to be excellent in whatever you're doing, realize it starts with you, but it doesn't end with you. Thank you very much. So this is how it's going at the moment. That's a picture of my hospital currently, and that's the launch of the latest research trial, giving surfactants or not to newborn babies from 34 to 38 weeks. But I won't bore you with the details. It's exciting. I'm excited every day I go to work. As challenging as it is, but I'm very, very much excited to be doing all of these projects, because finally it's put the hospital on the map. It resuscitated dead units, and life is so much better, and it has more. We're touching all the lives around us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ogundiya. It's been such an awesome time listening to you and hearing of your stories. You know, when you told me about that issue for your first year, anybody could have gone like, no, you know what, leave Ife and move on. But your story has taught us something about perseverance as you prepare, because the challenges will come. It may not come now, it will come sometime later. And that's life with its twists and turns. But you've told us a story about perseverance. You've also told us, as you shared in your experience, that being you is important, finding who you are and making yourself leave an impact in the sands of time. So those are very key, important lessons that it doesn't just apply to students, it applies to each and every one of us. We're still here, we're still living. And even if we haven't been doing that, we still can. I'm hoping to be more relevant in my society, to be more relevant in this generation and beyond, to do things beyond the status quo and push the barriers of possibility. Those are things that we can, keep looking forward to. At this time, we have heard from Dr. Akinsola Ogundiya. Thank you very much. And this is the time for questions. knowing Dr. Ogundiya, you would say, I call him Alaba. Like he said in his introduction, it's a name that is somewhere in his names, but we all just stuck that name and we all call him Alaba every time. And if you know him out of work, you would never know he's achieved anything apart from he's wearing the jeans, dancing shoes, and he's having fun. But it's so nice to see this side of you where you're telling of how you're impacting lives, making a difference, how you've brought new things to the horizon of where you work. Thank you. I'd like to open the floor now for questions. Questions can come from anyone here. It could be comments, please. We have a few minutes to do that. Kindly unmute yourself, and we'd like to hear from you. Do we have any questions? Thank you all OAU alumni that have joined. I see Tunde, Miwa, Maki. Madam is here. Hi, Shei is here, Yetunde is here, Diolu is here. We have students here as well. We know some of you will still go later on to watch on the YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Do we have questions or comments, or even say hello to Alaba while he's still here? Anybody? Oh, I see that.
Happy birthday, Alaba.
My friend, go and sit down and drink kuno or something.
I woke up just to say happy birthday. I'm going back to sleep. You bored me to death, but
Allow that.
that was great. Thank you so much.
Why
Happy
is
birthday,
Alaba
bro.
presenting on his birthday? Please help me ask.
It's that girl, it's that one, Tayo.
Why?
We had to make it a special landmark event today.
So used to be enjoying Hogmanay.
Don't worry, that one is following. That one is,
You better don't define what Hogmanay is, please. Do not spoil the children on the call.
allow that.
So thank you. We're all on this recorded line, and so if we do not have any questions, we still have our get together at the end. Most of the time it's a short get together, but then we have one where we would like to get in touch with everyone and say hi again. So if we do not have questions, please note that you can reach out to any of the presenters in the past on oaumed05@gmail.com. Please send an email and we will be sure to respond to you and make sure that you get linked up with somebody you might want to meet, someone who can mentor you, somebody you just want to talk to. And thank you so much, everyone, for, if there are no questions, we have somebody who's raising their hand.
It's me.
All right, please go ahead.
Yeah, so just to say, I know one person at least I've sent a message trying to get hold of Tomide. I'm trying my best to get a hold of her. She's not that easy to track down. But as soon as possible, I will get across back to you via email, just to let you know.
Okay, so that message is for someone.
Yeah.
On the line. Okay.
Yeah.
So without further ado, I want to thank you for joining today's session. It's been a pleasure to host Dr. Ogundiya and you all. And before we leave, today is his birthday. So I had requested that everybody bring a glass of juice, wine. He has his, for he's a jolly good fellow. Happy birthday to you, many more years.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so this recording will be posted on YouTube. Please make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any of the episodes. And for those I've never met that are on this call, my name is Tayo Adebayo Awoyale. My name is spelled dynamic and I bring warmth and grace, and I am the social doctor. It's been a pleasure hosting you. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.